right now, two actors, both born in Puerto Rico, both serving in the military, served in the military, plus one was a cop. And now they're both performing in a play that one of them wrote. Now, there is an excellent chance that you'll recognize our next two guests from their many movies and TV shows. Number one, Paul Calderon from the films Bad Lieutenant and Pulp Fiction, or HBO's Boardwalk Empire if you stay home for your entertainment. Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
And David Zayas from the films Annie and Tallulah, and of course series like Oz, legendary, Dexter, and Gotham for all you youngsters who don't have HBO or Showtime. Welcome.
But they're here today mainly to talk about the play that Paul has written and directed, and that he and David are co-starring in. It's called Fringe of Humanity. It's a production of Primitive Grace Ensemble, and it's running through the 28th at Access Theater in Manhattan. Welcome, guys. Thank you both for joining us. Paul, why don't we start with you a little bit about Fringe of Humanity and how you came up with it, how you wrote it. Yeah.
Where do you go from there?
Where do I go from there? Well, you know, it's a play that I wrote based on many of my experiences in the business over the last 40 years or so, and we started developing within our group, Primitive Grace. It's an ensemble theater company that we are both co-artistic directors of. And it's, you know, we wrote 20 pages, and we wrote 30, then we wrote 40, and then, you know, we kept going and going and going, and we did a stage reading last year. Everybody got excited, and now we're doing a production.
And now you're at the Access. I love that theater, by the way.
It's a beautiful theater.
Yeah, I love the people there. It's so great. So, David, tell us a little bit about the themes in this play and the characters you guys are both playing in it.
You know, I play the producer, Ross Gaussman. It's a pretty high-octane roller coaster of a story that takes place in a third world country, and there's this independent film crew that goes in there. And
is it like it could be any third world country?
Yeah,
yeah,
pretty much.
Bad third, I guess. Yeah. A bad third world country.
Kind of more lawless than usual.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
Very lawless. Yes.
It's probably a place where we can do the film cheaper than most places, and you know, a lot of events happen, and the nuances of these characters, you know, come to the surface during the life of this play, and you know, it's a ride. It's a wild ride.
Mm-hmm. So we've had a wild ride in current events lately. Like, how much of that plays into your play when you say we had 20 pages, then we had 30? Do you sort of put on your blinders, or are you absorbing all these things that are happening in the world and they filter through to the script?
Yeah, it's funny because, you know, some people that saw the stage reading last year, we did 2 stage readings. During the presidential campaigns, many of them thought that I had based his character on Trump.
Really?
That's
Which I
amazing.
hadn't.
Said there were jerks before.
Yeah.
Editorialized, I'm just saying.
And this character was based on many jerks that I've worked with in the past. And so, yeah, it's kind of like...
Naturally, he thought of you.
Of course.
David, right?
I'm the perfect fit for it, you know. It really made it easy for me as an actor to have that, you know, playing that type of character, a character that's just yearns for power, yet he's all a bag of wind, really,
right?
You know, and which can be dangerous, as we can see.
So that steps into process a little if you have a guy who might be inspiring sort of every night on the news. But Mel was telling me earlier something about Denzel Washington saying he acts the same if it's a theater piece or on film, which we thought was a bunch of hot air. So we wanted to ask you guys, like, if you like your process for theater versus TV work and film.
You guys have done so much of both.
You place just as much importance.
Yeah.
And you work just as hard, sometimes harder, regardless of the status of the project that you're in. At the moment, I mean, for me as an actor, whatever I'm doing is the most important thing, regardless of the status, whether it's financial, whether, you know, how many people are watching. You work just as hard and just as passionate So Denzel is correct.
But no, we're
I
getting
think
all
the heart
inside
is
the
the same.
actor's studio with
Yeah,
you. Like it
yeah.
can't, like you show up, you give your
Yeah, of
performance, but
course.
you can't be on TV like you're in the theater.
No, it's different. Performing for theater.
Yeah.
Well, performing for a small house is different than performing for a big house.
Gotcha.
Right.
If you're in a 50-seat house like we're in, it's got to be different than playing to a Broadway theater.
Right.
If you're in front of the camera and it's a close-up,
Yeah.
you have to act differently for different frames
Right.
when you're acting, and you have to act for different houses differently. You know, maybe you have to open up a little bit more, maybe you have to project a little bit more, and so forth and so on. You can't be as subtle on stage as you are in film. There's no way.
Yeah.
You
But
can't
that's
be.
technically, artistically,
Right.
and passionately.
Right.
Is,
No,
yeah,
of
so
course,
there's-
and I
But
totally
technically,
agree.
technically, there's a huge difference.
I totally agree. Yeah, no, which is why I found it really shocking, because he basically said, no, you don't have to change anything. I'll just bring the camera to you. And I said,
No, it's not. Well, you know, all respect to.
yeah, me too.
Because I also teach, and it's hard to get that across to theater students that come in and want to be theatrical. I have to tone them down. Then the opposite is true, where I'm directing a play and I have someone who's more comfortable in front of the camera. Now I have to get them to open up.
Right,
Yeah.
and to project,
Yeah, and to
which is
project.
really
in
difficult when you
theater-
haven't done that.
Yeah.
In theater, it's, in film and television, a lot of it could be in the eyes. In theater, it's from head to toe. It's
gotta be everywhere.
And you got to be there from head to toe the whole way. And so, it's great.
But Paul, you talked about the teaching thing. We heard a quote from you saying that the acting is like dancing mambo. How do you express that and pull that out of your kids, whether they're from film or from theater? Like, what's the mambo thing about?
Well, the mambo thing, mambo just means high priestess of voodoo, of Budum. That's the actual translation of it. But it is a dance as well. It's a Latin dance. And the beauty of it is that it's so spontaneous and so rich. And what I try to get across to my students is not to be tied up in knots with analytical knots of how it should be, because a lot of times you go to school and we get tied up in knots, as to how it should be. Many times you just throw that away. And you say, listen, you can be wrong and be right. You can be right and be wrong. This is just a dance. And sometimes by just throwing everything into the mix and by just having a fearlessness to your acting, there are many things that will be discovered in that dance, in that crazy dance.
I love that. Well, let's also talk about something else that Brian just kind of glossed over there, which is that you teach with your wife.
Yeah.
How'd that come about? And is that
Never gloss
fun?
over that. Excuse me. Pardon me.
Yeah, well, we trained with the same people many years ago. That's how we met. My first day in acting school was when I met her. And that was, it's going to be 40 years in September, and that's how we met. So we have the same training. And we basically, I think, because we're co-directing the piece, and David says that we basically say the same thing in different ways.
Yes. Yes, same thing in different ways.
In different ways.
And it's great because you get a different perspective of the same information that you need to do your thing.
Yeah, she's very meticulous. She's very organized.
Yeah.
She's she's
Yeah.
incredible. Me, I kind of show up. And
Feel it. Feel it for the day.
Yeah, I just try to feel and just kind of, okay, maybe, I don't write things down
Yeah.
many times. I'm just going with the flow. So it's a good combination between the two. And she's directed David before.
She directed me, my first 2 plays ever.
Yeah.
She directed me in.
Did you know her before you knew Paul?
No.
No.
I met them
Okay.
together at
Okay.
25 years ago.
25 years ago, yeah.
So these were your first 2 plays were directed by your
Kathy.
wife,
By Kathy Calderon,
She has
yeah.
a name. By Kathy.
Kathy,
has a
we
name.
finally got it.
No, sorry, Kathy. You're out in
My
the
wife's
open.
to go home tonight, so you better get it together. But you found your way to acting through a more non-traditional path too. You were protecting and serving out here before you got into those 2 plays.
Yes, I've always wanted to be an actor, but sometimes life just takes over, and I waited. I became joined the service, the Air Force, and came out and became a cop. Had a family I needed to support,
Provide
and
for.
I was until about 29 years old, 28 years old when I said, I'm gonna try acting, and I started studying acting. I loved it.
Yeah.
I got involved in this new theater company that Paul was one of the founding members, and I was lucky enough to get in that, and that's where I started working on plays and starting to learn what I learned throughout the years in that company, you know, and which gave us the knowledge to then start Primitive Grace and try to get that same vibe and that same energy.
Yeah.
You know?
So do you feel like because of that, do you feel like you get typecast at times as like a cop or someone in the military or even as a Latino? I mean, to speak more broadly about typecasting.
You know, I don't really think about it. I go by project to project. If it's a good writing, it doesn't matter what. I don't judge the characters I'm given, whether it's a cop, whether it's a drug dealer, whether it's a priest. It doesn't. It's about the writing and creating that character. Yeah, I play a lot of cops. I play a lot of bad guys. I play
All
a lot of
it's
like all that. And,
job.
yeah. Well, yeah, but it's it's a lot more fun doing it this way than it was before. But yeah, I get paid a little more.
$5
Yeah.
more.
Especially this play. Yeah.
Exactly.
What do you guys see happening next after the life of the play? Are we going to take this one possibly to the screen, or thinking about completely different projects for when you're done?
Well, I mean, everything is possible. You know, I mean, we just take it a day at a time. We want to continue. We want to use this as a platform to get the energy for future projects within our company. As for the life of the play, that usually comes as opportunities present themselves, and you know, Paul and myself will, you know, figure it out and take it the next step as it comes along. You know, we don't. We never even when we started this, we didn't have a set plan. We just said, let's see what happens. Let's just do it, and so we'll see. I mean, I hope so. I mean, it'd be great to continue. This is a great project. We have other projects also that we want to work on, and
Like what?
sky's the limit.
Yeah, are you Robin Hollywood to actually
Being
do
secretive.
the work of the theater? You go and shoot one of these huge big lights things and then come home and do the real work of the acting and inspiring?
Well, basically, that's one of the reasons why we started the company, because doing film, doing TV can be very, very laborious, and many times you get into habits, many times bad habits, because you know what works, so you keep repeating yourself. I can only speak for myself, and we wanted a forum where we could just, like the old days, just get together, twice a month, and just throw caution to the wind and not worry about critics or cameras. So just play with one another, and it's been a godsend to me, and I'm sure to you
Yes,
as well.
absolutely. Yeah, no, it's all. There are parts of I call it the acting island in your brain that kind of takes a pause when you're working on film and television. You're doing certain things, but it's always good to go back and do theater because it's a different muscle. Yeah. At least for me, it's a different muscle that I need to, when it's dormant for so long, it's like, can I still do this?
Flex.
So let's go and see if that'll click back into gear, And this definitely did that.
Because he hadn't done a play in 8 years. I hadn't done a play in 17
Wow.
years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, and I wasn't supposed to be in this play to begin with. I didn't write it for myself. I had somebody else in mind. He couldn't do it because he was doing a show. The other gentleman that we replaced him with had too many things going on in his life about 3 weeks ago, so I had to step in, and
Wow.
so it
Talk about, not planning how the thing's going to go and then having it totally
but
change.
that's the way it goes. It's,
Right.
He's probably the last one to learn his lines too. Like you wrote the whole damn thing, and then
now
you don't know your lines.
I don't know my
Still,
lines.
like,
Yeah, exactly.
Who wrote this? Very cool.
Exactly. Who the hell wrote? And we were joking about that, right?
Yeah.
So who the hell wrote this?
Wrote this. Amazing.
All right, tell us where to go and when to see this production.
Well, it's at the Access Theater, 380 Broadway, south of Canal. You can take the 60 and the R, the W.
Man is a Brooklyn. He can tell you how to get to the show.
And it's going to run through January 28th. It runs Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I think this, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right? Saturday we have a matinee.
This Saturday we have a matinee.
And it runs through January 28th, and go see it because he's incredible in it. He's
And so is he. He's
really
incredible
just
in it.
amazing in it. He's really amazing.
Well, the clock is ticking. Y'all go see Fringe of Humanity.
Yes, please do. Okay.
Thank you for
Thank you
joining.
so much
Thank
for
you so much.
joining us.
Thank you, guys.